to chapter 17, verse 11. Chapter 17, verse 11, because we start the parasha now at Revi, because last year we don't know exactly where we made it to, but we made it to about Revi every week. And tomorrow night, even though tomorrow morning I'm driving to New York to daven sunrise, tomorrow night we'll still meet, God willing. So God spoke to Moshe saying, yeah, the parasha class at 12:30 is going to be hard to make, but other than that, I plan to do it. Oh, it's Juneteenth, yeah. So hey, Roman mitoch ha'ida azot v'akala otam karega v'yipu apaneim. So we're in the middle of the narrative, and Korach and the previous verses that all Bnei Israel gathered, and they said, "You killed us." That what happened was, we have to go back a little bit. So that the ground had opened up and swallowed Korach, and so then, and then after that, he said, "Tell Alazar to take the fire pans and make it a sign." And Alazar Kohen took the fire pans and he took it as a sign that nobody who was not a Kohen could come close to bring the incense offering. And all the people then complained against Moshe and Aaron, saying, "You killed the people of God." And so they gathered on Moshe and Aaron. So it's like a second revolution, even after the ground had opened up and swallowed Korach. And there was a second plague. So it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for the ground to swallow up Korach. And God was very upset. And Moshe and Aaron came to the Omoed. So do we follow what's going on here? There was a second complaint. A second revolution. Just before we get into the psukim, it's just like, I always see this like in the news, that if you have a belief, no amount of facts most people, their beliefs will not be changed by facts. They're just stuck in. It doesn't matter. You'll always reinterpret the facts to meet your belief system. How do you even change somebody's mind ever?
Sometimes very difficult. They have to be open to it.
They have to be open. Yeah, most people are. I wonder how many people have changed over a course of time. So he says, "Hey, Roman mitoch ha'eda zot, separate yourself from this congregation. V'achal otam karaga, I'll destroy them instantly. V'yipu apaneihem, and they fell on their faces. V'yomer Moshe Aaron." And Moshe said to Aaron, "Kachas hamachta v'teno ha'esh me'al mezbeach v'sim ketores v'olech mehera el ha'eda v'chaper alehem ki yatsa ha'kasav m'ovnei Hashem yechel ha'nagef." So Moshe tells Aaron, even though the people had just rebelled against Moses, they had just rebelled against Moshe and Aaron multiple times, and now the plague is coming down upon them. Moshe says to Aaron, "Quickly take your fire pan, put fire on it from the altar, place incense on it, and quickly go to the congregation and serve as an atonement, because the anger has gone before Hashem. The plague has begun." Rashi says, "V'chaper aleim, raz zem masar u'malchamav." The angel of death had transmitted this secret to Moshe. Kisha'ol rakia, when Moshe ascended to the heaven, shaktoras otzer amagefa, the incense stops the plague, and this appears in Tractate Shabbos. So Moshe knew that the incense was a atonement for them. So Vayikach Aaron kasher diber Moshe, and Aaron took the pan like Moshe spoke. Vayaras al toch hakal, he ran into the middle of the congregation. Hinei achel negef ha'am, the plague had started amongst the people. Vayitin taktoras vayachaper ha'am, and he gave the incense, and it serves as an atonement on the people. Wow. She says nothing. And Aaron stood between the dead and the living. And he stopped the plague. Wow. Just a powerful pasuk. He stood between the dead and the living. He sees the angel of death. And he made him stand against his will. The angel of death said, "Let go of me, so I can perform my job." Amarlo, Aaron said to him, "Moshe tzivani, Moshe commanded me to stop you." Amarlo, the angel said, "Ani shlucho shel Mokom, I'm the angel of God. Yata shlucho shel Moshe, you're the agent of Moshe." Amar lo, so Aaron said, Ein Moshe Omer Kum, Milibo Ela Mipi Agvura. Moshe doesn't say anything by himself. He only says what God tells him to say. Moshe only tells him what God tells him to say. So at that point, the angel said, he said, Imena Tamamin, Are HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe al Pesach al Moed. If you don't believe me, look, Moshe and God are at the entrance to the tent. Let's go ask them. Aaron returned to Moshe. So he actually stopped the angel of death directly. He actually stopped the angel of death directly. That's such a Tavar Acher. Alternatively, hello, Jeffrey. Lama Baktoras. Why did Moshe and Aaron stop the plague with incense? The Fisha Ayu Yisrael, Melizim Umaranim Achar Ktoras. Because the Jewish people were mocking and scoffing about the incense. And they were saying, Sama Mavasu, that this was the poisonous death. Because Ayado Mesu Nadav and Avihu died through it. Ayado Nisrafim Chamishim Mutaimish, and through it. Now this again, we didn't start the portion at the beginning, but in chapter 16, verse 35, it says that after the Korach and his community were swallowed, it says the fire went out and consumed those 250 men who brought the incense, because that was the plague, that they brought the incense. That was the test. They were going to say, we're all going to bring the incense, and whoever, he says, whoever's incense was accepted. And that was back in chapter 16 at the beginning. So they were then saying the Ktoros is the Sama Maves. So Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Terusha Otzer Magefahu V'Achetu HaMemes. He says, look, the Ktoros is what stops the death, stops the plague, and the sin is what kills. So we see from here the same thing is what causes the death, and also what causes life. That's the disease, the punishment and the cure is the same exact thing. It's a little bit like the vaccine. The vaccine has both the elements of the.
I thought Rashi was saying that the people were jeering negatively and saying it was the incest that caused death, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu was no, the incense is stopping the death, but it's the sin, right? So
that's exactly right. That Hashem said, "Why did Hashem use incense to save the people here?"
But it wasn't so they're not. It's not the same thing caused the death that caused the life.
Yeah, because it's the people were saying the incense keeps causing the death because Nadav and Avihu died, and also the 250 men who brought the incense. So the people were mocking the incense. So Moshe told Aaron to run with the incense and to stop the plague. So we're seeing that the incense is the drug of life, not just the drug of death. Rabbi Yosef has a question.
I just wanted to say that it's not a fair comparison, and it's under the belt for Aaron specifically. Like, why are you mentioning his sons? That's really, really not fair. And to comparison to the 250, they actually were sinners. Nadav and Avihu did something wrong, but they did it for the right reason, not for the wrong reasons. Like,
I mean, that's speculation that why they did it, but it says that they brought a fire that God did not command them. So they committed a sin. And there are people who say that Korach and his followers had good reasons. So, okay, but that's an interesting point.
It's a very negative view of the Israelites.
They did multiple revolutions.
Even after he's already demonstrated through the earth opening that Korach was wrong, they still
complained. So look what happens next. So Vayashav Vayub Ametim B'Magefa Arba Asar Elef Ushva Meot. So there were 14,700 who died in this plague. Excuse me, Movad Ametim Ad Var Korach. Aside from the 250 men who died with Korach and his family, there were 14,700 men who died here. And Aaron and Moshe returned to the entrance to the tent, and the plague stopped. The plague stopped. God spoke to Moses, speak to the children of Israel. Take from each of the tribes one staff from each family. 12 staffs, one from each of the princes. Each man's name you shall inscribe on his staff. Verse 18. At Shem Aaron, the name of Aaron, you should write on the tribe of Levi. There's one staff for each of their families. Rashi says, even though Levi has been divided into two families, the Kohanim and the Leviim by themselves, it's one single tribe. Rashi says nothing here. Okay, that was Rashi. Verse 19. And you shall leave them in the Ol Moed in front of the testimony. So you're supposed to take all these staffs and place them in the Ol Moed in front of the ark, basically, in front of the testimony where I meet with you. And the person whom I select, his staff will bud. And that will cause me to subside from the complaints of Israel, that they are complaining against you. So basically, we clearly see that revolution against Aaron is not over. Even though there was a tremendous plague which Aaron stopped, even though the earth swallowed up, They've never seen anything like that before. A plague which was killing thousands. Aaron runs into the middle of the plague and stops the plague with his bare hands. And yet another test was needed.
So what made the conditions so right for such a aggressive revolution? I mean, we know it was harsh in the desert, but they also had mana, they had protection.
So I would say you were in politics, Eric. You're in leadership positions.
That's why I'm trying to figure it out. I'm thinking like a politician.
Like you were in leadership roles your whole life. Well, what do you think?
Well, something was, people were clearly riled up about something, and Moshe and Aaron either didn't know that, either didn't understand the depth of the opposition that was growing, or they
well, Korach, we know what Korach's problem was. Because Korach they said, Rabochem kikoa ida kuam kudoshim, utocham Hashem, umadua titnasu akal Hashem. They said, you've taken too much. Everybody's holy. Why have you exalted? Why have you made yourselves exalted? And then later on, it says another. He says. Moshe says another thing later on. Moshe says. So Datan Vaviram say, is it enough that we're not going to come up? Is it enough that you brought us out of milk, promised that you're going to bring us to the land of milk and honey, and you haven't brought us there? And you're going to kill us in the wilderness, and you also are now going to rule upon us. So that's another complaint. And Moshe gets upset, and Moshe says, I didn't steal anybody's donkey. So that's another point that they're accusing him of theft and bribery. So these are the complaints. These are the
This is
standard
also,
complaints.
this is after the spies, the innocent spies.
That's what they said. We're dying in the
So you have
wilderness.
people who come back and say, we're not gonna get there, or we're gonna get.
There's no question they've had setbacks in the wilderness. And so they're saying we're not going to make it.
They pulled out all the stops. This was all the tricks. It's not a fast tricks.
Yeah, no, this is a serious revolt.
So that was but the good news is that when Aaron dies, they're all sad for him. They mourn for him tremendously after he dies, and they cry for him, and that's in next week's portion. So they all cry for Aaron after he's dead. So, okay. So Vaya Ish, okay, we just read that. Verse 21. Vayidaber Moshe al bnei Yisrael. Vayinu elav kol nesihem. Matel nasi achad, matel nasi achad, beit avotam, 12 matot, matei Aaron betoch matosam. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and they gave him all of their a staff for each prince, one staff, Matel and Nasi Achad, one staff for each prince, one staff for each prince from each home, 12 staffs, and the staff of Aaron was amongst their staffs. Rashi says, "Betoch matosam," in the middle. Hinichu be'emtza, shelo yomru b'mnei sheinichu b'tzad shchina parach. They don't want Moshe. They're going to be accused of saying, "Oh, Aaron's staff blossomed because it was on the side closer to the divine presence. That's why Aaron's staff blossomed." No, they don't want to say that. Verse 22. Ayanach Moshe matos of Hashem. And Moshe's staff. Hey. Moshe laid down the staffs before God in the tent of the meeting. Verse 23. And it was the next day, and Moshe came to the tent of the meeting, and the staff of Aaron budded from the house of Levi, and it started to blossom, and it sprouted a bud, and it developed almonds. So first of all, the word here that to me is so powerful is the word that jumps out, the light word, is the tzitz. Tzitz. It sprouted a bud because it's related to where else we see this word tzitz. So exactly, Mordechai says this was the golden forehead plate that Kohen would wear on his head. And also, where else do we see it? In the tzitzit that everybody was supposed to wear. It's a symbol of holiness. So on the tzitz, what does it say? Kadoshi, yeah, you shall be holy. And the tzitzit are the garments that we wear to remind us of our holiness. So Aaron's staff is the one that blossomed. Rashi says, "Vayotzei parach," it brought forth a blossom. Kamashmo, just like it sounds.
The same word, seats, is the same word as tzitzit.
See, it's the exact same word, seats and just tzitzit. It's the singular. And then seats means a bud. Uchanatata pri. This is the emergence of the fruit. Kishaperach no fell when the blossom falls. Vayigmol shkedim, and it developed almonds. Kishahukara pri, when the fruit was identifiable. Ukar shem shkedim, it became clear that it was almonds. Mashon vayigdala yelad vayigamel. The word gamal means weaned. Okay, this is an expression. Lama shkedim, why did Aaron's staff sprout almonds? This is the fruit that blossoms most quickly. Mikoa peros. This is the fruit that blossoms most quickly. So too, somebody who raised objections against the priesthood, his punishment will quickly come. Like we find by Uzziah. Uzziah, the king of Judah, it says that the tzarah broke forth upon his forehead. Targumo B'kafita shigdin. Kamin eshkol shkedim yachad kfutim zalzeh. It was like a cluster of almonds that grew, one bound to the other. Verse 24. Vayotze Moshe is called Matos b'fnei Hashem, and Moshe took out all the staffs from before God. Al kol b'nei Yisrael vayeru vayekhu ish mateo, and they saw them, and each man took his staff. Vayeru vayekhu ish mateo. So everyone took his staff back, except for Aaron. Vayomer Adonai Moshe Shevet Matei Aaron Fnei Ha'idut Mishmeret Ot Fnei Mary Utechal Tunatam Me'awai V'Yamutu. So Hashem says to Moshe, return Aaron's staff before the testimony as a sign to guard, as safekeeping, as a sign for the rebellious ones, so their complaints against me will cease and they not die.
But they're never going to see it. It's in the Holy of Holies.
Well, they would. When would they see it?
Once a year on Yom Kippur, but only one person.
Well, sometimes they would roll back the curtain sometimes and tell people to look. But you're right. When would they see it? Very good question. So let's see what Rashi says. Mishmeres la'os.
Wasn't this the step we heard that we learned that it was the staff of Levi that had Aaron's name on it?
Yeah.
So when they were saying to return it,
No, all the other staffs were returned, but not this staff. This staff stayed in the Holy of Holies.
I see they get a scroll in their interpretations
Interpolated?
in parentheses, they put to where it had been, which I don't think that's accurate. It
No.
wasn't where it had been. It was,
Well, they put it back. Return the staff of Aaron to where it had been before the testimony. Meaning to say, put it back next to the Luchot.
yeah.
The Mishmer La'os Zikaron Shebacharti Ba'aron, as remembrance that I chose Aaron. The Kohen, V'lo Yolanu Od Al Kuna. We don't want any more complaints about the priesthood. By the way, this complaint about the priesthood is an ongoing complaint. I don't know. There's some of the liberal forms of Judaism got rid of the kahuna. They got rid of the priestly blessing. So I'm like, if you go to conservative or reform synagogues, you probably won't see the priestly blessings.
Sure.
Some of them do, but some don't.
They also don't do the order of Kohanim.
Yeah, they took away this idea. This is the idea that certain. Yeah, but the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah says the Kohanim have the advantage in terms of being asked to serve. So it's not egalitarian. It's not ecumenical. But it's hard for us to accept because in America we try to say meritocracy, but the Talmud. We didn't get rid of the priests. We have the priests. Oh, in America we got rid of the king. But the Torah, the Talmud does say, even though the Kahuna retains their status, they say even a Mamzer Torah scholar comes before a Kohen Gadol. Meaning to say, if you're the ultimate status, Keter Torah Oel Kulam. There's 3 king crowns, and the crown of the Torah is the greatest. But yeah.
Another proof for your phrase of the week, Rabbi.
They follow Shemariah and not the.
Yeah. So the idea is that, yes, this is accurate, but the Kohen always be special, but the rabbis didn't take away the power of the Kahuna, but they elevated the power of Torah. Utechal Tunatam, and their complaints will cease. Like it states, Utechalat Tunatam, their complaints will cease. We'll just do the last verse. V'yas Moshe kasher tziva Hashem oto kein asah. And Moshe did just like Hashem had commanded him. We'll just do the last pasuk. Vayomer b'nei Yisrael Moshe more. Hein gavanu avanu kuanu avanu. Behold, we'll die. We're lost. All of us are going to die. Kol hakarev hakarev al mishkan Hashem yamut. Hayim tamnu gvoah. They said, are we for sure going to die? Rashi says, "Einanu yicholin liyot zechirim bekach." Kuanu rishon yikanes lechatzer ol moed. V'achad she'akriv otzo yoter mechavarav yikanes toch ol moed yamut. So everybody, they said, we're worried that if it comes to close, we're going to die. They're worried here. They're worried that it's too dangerous for us. We're going to end up dying. So, well, the next response is chapter 18. So we'll stop here. And tomorrow morning, if anybody wants to come, we'll leave here at 1 a.m. But